everybody. Welcome. My name is Cynthia, and this is the Grand Boulevard Coalition Show. As you can see today with me, I have a guest, Mayasa. She's one of our interns at Chicago Area Project. And today we're going to be basically going into things related to social work, anything social work, her interests, what she's studying, what her focus is going to be in the future, career plans, things like that. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. And yeah, please look forward to our next upcoming episodes. We're going to be talking about what we did in April for the prom event, but that will be for a next later episode. But for today, we're going to get into our questions that we have for Mesa. And yeah, so the first question for today is, where did you go to school and what are you majoring in?
Thank you for the introduction. I'm so excited to be here. I am a social work student. I go to Northeastern Illinois University, and Cynthia knows that because she actually went to Northeastern too, which is very exciting, being able to work together and kind of like her giving me her little secrets. It's been an incentive, definitely.
Yes.
So I am a social work student. I'm currently getting my master's, and I finish in a couple weeks, which I'm really excited about.
Yes.
But I actually got my bachelor's at NEIU too.
Right.
And I graduated last May.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
And then your graduation date that's coming up, is that, do you know your date, like the actual date?
Yeah, it's May 16th.
Oh, wow.
Our hooding ceremony is May 13th, I want to say.
Oh.
Yes.
And that's separate from the
It's separate, yeah.
That's so nice. That's so nice.
Is that not... well, your
Yeah.
master's was from UIC.
Yeah. And then also when I graduated with my BSW, we had, our graduation was over Zoom. It was a presentation
Really?
slideshow.
Oh, no.
That's a whole other thing that I don't want to get into, but it was very depressing. So I'm glad you guys
That's
get the
funny.
chance. Yeah, no, I'm glad you guys get the chance to do that. So that's exciting. That's really exciting.
Yes, it is.
Okay, well, tell us why you got into social work. What made you get interested in that?
So that is a very hard question for me. The field of social work is so broad, and which is why I didn't initially think I wanted to go into it.
Right.
But I wasn't ready to make the decision going into college.
Okay.
So that first year, I took a whole bunch of introductory courses. I went into anthropology. I tried psychology. I even went into nutrition and dietetics for a bit.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I was at UIC for a year.
Okay.
But things didn't work out there, and I kind of knew which route I wanted to take. I knew two things. I knew I liked to listen to people, and I cared for justice and equity. So that's kind of what led me to the field of social work.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's when I transferred to NEIU, and I took an introductory to social work course. And the course itself was amazing, but the professor, his name was Dr. Lozornio.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he was awesome. I just loved hearing from him. He's been in the field of social work for years.
Wow.
So I feel like he really intrigued me in the field of social work as a whole, and I knew from that point that I wanted to move forward with it.
Nice.
Yeah.
I didn't know that you dabbled in other things first before you got into social work.
I did, yeah.
That's so interesting, honestly.
Nutrition, dietetics didn't last long. Me and chemistry don't work well, so it
Fair.
didn't work out.
That's fair. That's kind of how I started too. When I went into Northeastern, I actually entered through their K-SET program.
Oh, really?
Yes, because I wanted to be a teacher. In high school, I was like, okay, I want to be a teacher. And my counselor was like, okay, well, Northeastern has a great teaching program. And I was like, okay, let me try it out. And then a year passed and I started failing all my classes.
Oh, no.
I was like, I don't think I like this. And then kind of similar too, I took that intro to social work class. I was like, that sounds kind of interesting. And I think my history teacher, when I was just taking the gen ed classes, he mentioned oh yeah, there's a need for social workers. And I was like, I never really thought of it as a career path, but I wanted to look into it. So I was like, okay, let me do some research. And I had Professor Blake.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
He's awesome.
Yes.
I had him last semester.
Oh, nice. Yeah, he also teaches really great. His interest, and I think he worked in foster care and stuff. So he was a really good teacher that just knew how to get students interested in social work, and that's kind of how I got hooked too.
Yeah.
But that's cool. That's cool to know. Like, it just, sometimes we don't know right away, like, what we want to do.
That's the thing, yeah.
And it's just good to try it out. I mean, we have time, even though teachers want to pressure you, like, oh, you have to know by the end of high school what you want to do, or else, like, you're going to fail. No, like, it's okay to try things out, and if it doesn't work, it doesn't work, because you eventually find something that you like.
Exactly. It's such, it's a very confusing time. That whole transition from high school to college. And we're really not up for making such a big decision like that. But, like, what helped me most is seeing somebody so passionate about their work.
Yes, I agree.
I kind of saw it as, like, oh, I'm ready to be there, or that's how I want to be in the future.
Yes, I like that. Definitely, you can tell when a teacher is passionate about the stuff that they're teaching. And I feel like that's what got me more motivated to be like, yeah. And then also just learning social work is so broad, too. There's so many things you can focus on. You can work with people. You can work more meso-macro. We'll talk a little bit more about that, too. So there's just so many fields you can get into. And all the classes, obviously, too, that kind of get you to get interested in the different types of fields you can get into. So there's a lot of ways that you can get interested in social work, and I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah,
that's pretty cool.
That's true.
Okay, well, what are your social work career goals for the future now that graduation's coming up? You know, it's like you gotta think more about what you want to focus on, I guess, career-wise. Do you know what you want to do career-wise?
So although I am graduating in a few weeks, I don't quite know which route I want to take.
That's fair.
And part of that is because, as you mentioned, the field of social work is so broad.
Yes.
So I have some experience in nonprofit work. I have some experience in domestic violence and in juvenile delinquency. So that's where I've spent most of my time, but I feel like I don't know enough, or I haven't seen enough to make a decision like that.
That's fair.
So even after graduation, once I start applying for jobs, I'm not gonna tailor it towards one direction.
Right.
I'm gonna keep it broad, kind of, and see where it takes me.
I think that's good too, to just keep your options open and not to limit yourself to one specific role. Like, oh, I just want to do like case management, for example. So you're only looking for case management jobs, but then there's other things like youth development workers, career coaches, job coaches. There's like so many other. So it's like good to, I think, keep that open too, and just kind of think about, because then you don't limit yourself too to options career-wise. And especially because a lot of people always talk about the job market too being like very strict and rough, and so I think it's good to not limit yourself. But do you have an idea, like, do you want to work directly with people? Do you want to do more like bigger community work? Is that something, do you know anything about what
so that kind of goes into macro, meso, and micro.
Yes.
So I, as much as I care about macro is
the broadest.
Broader, so that's more into policy change and systemic changes. As much as I care about that, and I think it's so important in the field, I personally got into social work to work one-on-one with clientele. So I've been dabbling a little between micro and meso, like at a community level, and I've loved it, and I think that's where I definitely want to stay.
Nice.
I value the human connections, and part of why I got into this is because I loved hearing people's stories. Yeah. So I feel like at a macro level, it's hard to make those human connections, which is why I'd rather focus on those first two.
Yeah, I agree. I think because, you know, there's going to be something for everyone. Some people prefer grant writing or policy level type social work. I feel like I could never get myself too interested in policy, legislature, like things having to, even though it is important, it's just not something that I was super passionate about, like making that my whole career. And I feel like for some people, it works for some people. And honestly, more power to those people, because we do need those people. Yeah. But I agree, like just having that human connection, you actually are able to understand why people have the needs that they have, and the things that people go through helps us better understand the grants that people write, the resources that people need.
That's right.
And I feel like you don't really know what people need until you actually work in the ground and get, just work with the people and understand the needs that they have. I feel like So it's kind of like vice versa too, right? People need people on the ground to better understand at bigger levels what we need to change and what we need to improve. So I feel like that's a really good, it's a good field to get into. And I feel like if you have that passion for people and just passion for connection with people, it just comes more naturally to people sometimes too. Like you just are naturally a good listener, naturally just good at keeping the conversation going with people, versus having dry conversations with someone. It's like you're never gonna right, you're never gonna learn about somebody if you're just like, hi, how are you? Like, okay, good, okay. No, but obviously definitely takes practice. It takes work to be able to better learn how to understand people. That's why we go to school and learn the techniques. But yeah, so I think that's really cool that you have an idea a little bit, where you want to focus on.
Yeah, I do, and thankfully Northeastern, our curriculum, we have to take a policy class.
Yes.
So that kind of gives you a sense of how the policy route would go.
Yeah. That's true.
And as much as I loved it, it kind of also, I was lucky enough to know that it's not for me.
Yes.
So that's the route I didn't end up taking.
Yeah, that's the beauty of that too. Just knowing we're forced to take these classes, but it's for our benefit, and also it helps us learn a little bit about ourselves and what we're passionate about. So it's good. Yeah, it forces us to have that experience, but it's good to know all aspects of it, even though we only choose, one focus. But who knows, later on in life, you're like, oh, maybe I want to focus on macro level in the future. It can always change, and that's the beauty of social work too. Like there's infinite options where you can go.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Okay, so what is a topic that has been most interesting to you that you've learned about since the start of your social work journey? So it could be from things you learned in college or things you learned in internship, something that was most interesting to you.
I feel like this is so hard because there's so many different approaches in social work.
Yeah.
And I don't even know the half of it, right? I'm graduating, but also like I will continue to learning through my experience at work and all that stuff. But I think the most concept I've grasped on, and something I feel that has really brought awareness in today's day, is intergenerational trauma.
Yes. Yes.
So we learned about it a lot in our classes, and working and being at my internship, we're able to see those experiences within our clients firsthand. And it really changes my perspective now that I understand actually what intergenerational trauma means and how it works, and the system as a whole. You kind of view each client differently, and that their problems aren't problems really. It's just a set of things that have been carried on from their parents or from their grandparents, and it's just the way of living now. So I feel like changing that perspective and seeing it from that lens has allowed me to understand the clients better and kind of meet them where they are.
I like that. I think that's such an interesting topic too. Just trauma in general, but intergenerational trauma, just kind of the way it's passed down and the way that it affects us mentally, but also it affects them physically with their bodies, even certain diseases that are passed down, conditions health-wise too, the way that stuff is passed down.
That's right.
That's genetic, and that could have been developed because of traumas or because of their environments where they live. It's so many different factors that come into it, and everyone's situation is so unique, and that's why, like you said, it's so interesting just learning everyone's different experience, because you get to learn about all the issues that are going on, not just in their personal lives, but just environmentally, because that all affects trauma and can be, if there's community violence in their area where they live, if they can't move out of that, right? Like there's so many things financially, and kind of, financially how you pass that down to your children. So less opportunities for them. Maybe they don't get therapy because they can't afford it, or they don't have the resources in their neighborhood. So it's just so many things that play into it. And so I think it's really important just to learn more about that, because then you're learning how to better communicate with each family or individual too. So I think that's cool. I think that's a really good topic, and obviously a lot of people in social work should learn about that topic. There's a lot of trainings on it too, just for people to get, more in-depth information on that topic.
Yeah.
And just like there are so many webinars and trainings out there for so many other topics. ICOI, a shout out to ICOI because they have a lot of trauma trainings and it's a really good, they give you really in-depth trainings just to learn and talk with other people who work at other organizations, right? And learn their experiences with their populations that they work with.
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool.
And these trainings are so beneficial because we're watching it from a professional perspective, right? As social workers.
Yes.
But we can also take this home with us and kind of understand how these effects have affected us personally and with our families and in our personal experiences.
Yeah, because you can relate to sometimes some of the families, they bring up issues that maybe you've gone through and you're better able to communicate with them based on like, oh yeah, I've been through that too. And just being able to show that like empathy for them and relating to them too. I feel like relating to them really does make a difference too. And you don't have to relate to all your clients to make them understand that you're there for them. But it does kind of add that deeper connection sometimes just to tell them like, hey, this is what I've been through. This is what I did when I was going through the same thing, They really appreciate that too.
Yeah.
And take it with them. So I think that that's really good. And okay, let's see. What is one thing you have learned from your internship or social work experience? So it could be from your time here. One thing you have learned from your internship experience.
One thing.
Hopefully it's more than one.
It's a lot more than one. And I wouldn't even know where to start. So I feel like the biggest takeaway is kind of while you're meeting clientele, while you're hearing the stories of these individuals, you see a lot of growth in yourself.
Yeah.
And the biggest takeaway would probably be learning how to manage these emotions and not let it affect your day-to-day or kind of how you would treat the individual no matter what the situation is. And we've all come across situations. I mean, we all have our personal biases, right?
Right.
So it's also putting those biases aside and reassessing the situation from a professional perspective, from a social work perspective.
Yes.
But yeah, that's something that I'm still continuing to learn.
Yeah.
And it will take me, I'll probably never stop learning, right?
Yeah.
And I hear from my professors and from other professionals in the field that it's a work in progress.
Yeah.
We every day we learn more and more about our biases, and it's really something that you can continue to grow in.
Yeah, that's true. Especially just because there's so many varying in clients, right? So learning how to take in people's trauma and just hearing them, if they get emotional, just knowing how to handle the clients and how to treat them in the most respectful way possible to not trigger them, finding out more about what does trigger them. And if you do trigger them, trying to kind of talk them down in that way and figuring out just the different ways that we need to better communicate with these people is just like, and when I say just people that have gone through very traumatic things, right? So it's just being very careful with our words and and it's not to say that, we have to be like super duper, delicate, and it's okay to be real with our clients sometimes if they need to hear something, let's say if they're stubborn about something, let's just really drill into their heads the importance of making a change in their lives and improving their lives, doing the things that they have to do, without being judgmental and without making them feel like we think that we're better, because we are here to help them. We're here to get them out of the situations that they're in, and because we're here to be like their cheerleaders. Like, we got you, and if you slip, that's okay, because nobody's perfect. Right. We're not perfect either. We slip too. So giving that grace to them kind of helps them to give them grace to us too,
Yeah,
in a way.
that's right.
So I feel
We're
like
humans on the other side of the table too.
yes.
So I feel like
yes.
also that's also something else I've learned. It's just transparency with the client.
Yes.
If
yes.
they see you as somebody just like them, right? We're all struggling. We're all just trying to get past the day. It really just helps them accept us and
Yes.
get comfortable.
Yeah.
When we're sitting face to face and.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. Like there was a student when we were doing the groups at the alternative schools, and we were talking about violence, and I think it was like just being safe in your surroundings, and if there's like a school shooting or if there's a dangerous situation happening wherever they're at, just being safe. And one of them was very, I guess, upset with the way I was talking about it, because she's like, oh, you don't understand, you don't get it. And I'm like, you're right, I don't, because I haven't been through something like that. And they have. And this was like a young, maybe like 17, 18 year old student. And I, you have to be real with them and don't get defensive, right? If they try to tell you like, oh, you don't know. And I'm like, well, yeah, that's why we're here, because I want to hear from you, and I don't know what you know. I haven't been through it, so you are right in a way. So, yeah, just kind of learning not to take things personal, especially in this job, too. Don't take it personally, because they are going through a lot.
Yeah,
so,
definitely.
Yeah. And we are always learning, too. Like you said. Yeah. Okay. So we do have about 5 minutes, so maybe about 1 or 2 questions left that we can get into. But as your internship comes to an end, how do you feel like you've grown? I guess we kind of talked about that a little bit, but yeah. I mean, if you want, we can go into the next question, or do you want to add to that something? How do you feel that you've grown in that as a student?
As a student?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because I went directly from my BSW to my MSW, I feel like I was able to compare last year's experiences or the first 4-year experiences to this past year.
Yeah.
And I've just seen growth in myself, like as a student, how I approach assignments, how I approach papers.
Yes.
It's no longer a 4-page paper, right? It becomes this client that you're working with, and how you're going to take in that story, and how you're going to work through it with them.
Yeah.
So definitely my approach to school has changed a lot. I look forward to going to class. And a big part of it is because we're all in the field now, and we're all clinicians in with like, and we're hearing real stories.
Yeah.
So that's definitely been a huge thing for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that. Okay, so getting into, we'll skip to the last question just because I want you to share what's any advice that you would give to an incoming MSW student from taking all the things that you've learned as a student in the field in general. What is a few tips if you have that you would give to future incoming MSW students?
Okay. I say this because it's something that I struggled with, but I would say it's to find your people. Whether it be your professors, your teachers, your classmates, your supervisor. It's a very heavy field, and we need someone to talk to day to day, like every day, just kind of like a debrief, or sometimes you feel like you're okay, but really once you dissect a situation or a story you heard, you kind of see it, and it might bring you down. It might affect you emotionally. And a lot of that can put a toll on us. So definitely find your people, and it's a long journey. And an advanced standing student, especially the year is hectic, it's chaotic. The workload is a lot. So you need to have that escape to have somebody to talk to.
I agree. It definitely helps just kind of keeping your mental health in check too, because as much as our clients' mental health matters, our own matters too. And you can't give your clients the most, the best, I guess, attitude and the best service that you can give them if you're not feeling your best too.
That's right.
And they can tell sometimes too, that if you're not having a good day, if you're not feeling it, that can also affect how the sessions go, how how they feel about you in the future. Like, oh, I can't talk to them because they're, always like this or whatever, right? But talking to them and talking to friends, teachers, people in the field, I think that that's a really good way to process the things that you went through throughout the day, throughout the week in your field, even in class too, because obviously class is very stressful, all the papers, everything. So I like that. Finding your people is really important wherever you are, because you get that sense of community too, and you have support. And I think that that's really important.
Definitely.
So thank you for sharing that.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yes, so this was Mace, everybody. I hope that you enjoyed our interview today. I hope that you learned something if you're an incoming MSW student or just a social work student in general. So we appreciate her time, and we're going to miss her after she graduates. It's very unfortunate, but we're very excited to see what her plans are and where she goes in the future. So I hope you all have a good rest of your Thursday. Thank you so much for joining us today, and we'll see you all next time. Thank you.